Hello guys, I'm here with chapter 6 of What If Goku and Broly Merged. I hope you enjoy and like and subscribe if you did. A year later. A year had gone by since that fateful day on Namek. A lot happened in that year. Earth's special forces grew in number and strength. Technology advanced rapidly and the whole world seemed happier. With the new King Brokarat, rapid development of technology and ingenious laws and regulations sent down by the new High Court. Crime has reached an all-time low. No one on Earth was left hungry, even the smallest villages were given an abundance of food and water. Many on Earth looked towards their king with love and admiration. Many, that is, except for one. Dr. Garo sat in his lab chair contemplating his life. The Red Ribbon Army had a similar goal to that of Brokarat. The difference was Brokarat's methods. Instead of fear, the people loved him. Dr. Garo once again contemplated letting go of his hatred. Maybe joining Brokarat and helping develop a stronger army would be better? No, my army will be avenged. If Brokarat is worthy of being king, then he'll easily defeat my androids, thought Garo. Garo briefly paused in his work on the androids, dubbed 17 and 18, to walk down into his secret bunker, where a giant computer was being built. And with the creation of Cell, I'll be unstoppable, thought the doctor. Push, yelled the doctor as the head of the child became visible. Push, yelled the doctor once again, and slowly but surely the head of a child began to appear. I'm pushing, screamed the birthing women of 30 years. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the baby fully emerged from his mother, a tail dangling out of his spine, causing the doctors a moment of confusion before they remembered Bulma telling them that the child might have such an abnormality. The doctor gave the crying infant to his mother, who cooed at her beautiful child as she slowly brought him up to feed. Brokarat smiled from beside Bulma at his newly born son. Saiyans do not have a high fertility rate. Brokarat's father, Bardock, was a special case as he had 3 sons. It seemed that the high fertility rate of humans balanced it out, as Brokarat hadn't expected another child for at least 2 more years. Brokarat had been feeling growing pains in his chest for the past month. He ignored it at first, as Saiyan bodies, especially ones as powerful as he was, rarely got sick. Finally, after 2 weeks, he got himself checked out. He was told he had a heart virus, one that should have killed him days after the symptoms began to appear. Bulma had been working on a cure, but with her pregnancy Bulma was hard-pressed. Brokarat decided not to let it worry him. If it was his time, it was his time. No use in making the last few months of his life be filled with sorrow. As Brokarat went home, Bulma and his new son, Trunks, were still at the hospital. Making sure that both Bulma and the baby were in top health and that there were no complications. Brokarat felt a tingle down his spine as he suddenly felt a power enter the earth at a rapid pace. Ting ting ting. Intruders entering Earth's atmosphere. Engaged. Brokarat hesitated for a second, wondering of the intentions of whoever is coming. If they were friendly, they would have asked before entering, and I don't sense any injured people on board, Brokarat thought to himself before engaging the earthen defense system. Suddenly the ship, which was just a couple thousand kilometers from the Earth, was stopped by an invisible wave. Immediately the ship was destroyed by an electric beam of highly condensed energy. After the energy was gone, nothing was left of the ship. Not a single piece. In the ship's place, 2 angry Ecorsians stood in shock. Earth, a backwater planet, had somehow detected their ship that was in stealth mode and destroyed it. Frieza grew even angrier as he stood in space, before an aura began to surround him. Those damn monkeys, they've done it now. I was going to face them one-on-one, but now I'll destroy their entire planet, screamed the infuriated Arcosian before he raised his hand, creating a giant ball of energy. Frieza, no, wait, we have no means of returning home if this planet is destroyed, said King Cold in urgency, only to see his son completely ignore him as he continued to pour his energy into his attack before releasing it. At high speeds the attack sailed towards the Earth, only for it to suddenly slow down and be absorbed. Frieza was terrified. That was his most powerful attack. How? Who had stopped it? Unknown to Frieza, the Earthlings had built a machine that could manipulate gravity and force. It couldn't be used inside the Earth as it would cause the planet to become unstable. The machine shot a mix of dark matter and other secrets just behind the intruders, which caused a miniature dark hole that sucked the attack and Frieza and King Cold towards it. King Cold and Frieza resisted the high gravity but could not avoid the attack, which destroyed Frieza. Whereas King Cold was knocked out, and microseconds later, the dark hole disappeared. Slowly but surely, King Cold's body was sucked to Earth, where it landed somewhere in the wastelands of Urziak, smashing into a mountain, immediately killing the unconscious Arcosian. Brockhardt smirked, having finally realized whose power he was sensing. It brought him great joy to see how intelligence overwhelmed brute strength. He didn't even have to interfere. If they had landed, he would have had to fight them. Something that didn't really worry him, but still he was sick and there was no reason to strain his body needlessly. Brockhardt was about to continue to his destination, Capsule Corp, to get some rest, as he hadn't been able to train for the past 2 weeks due to Bulma forbidding him until he was healed from his virus. Suddenly, another power appeared, about 300 miles away. Brockhardt thought the power was vaguely familiar. He smiled. "I've wanted to use this technique for a while now," Brockhardt said out loud before putting 2 fingers on his forehead and disappearing. Brockhardt had finally trained with King Kai, in the year gap, having impressed the KO greatly when he defeated Frieza. Brockhardt had learned instant transmission, a technique which caused instant movement from any destination to another without any delay as long as the destination can be sensed. The need for an anchor is a bit annoying, but Brockhardt had a powerful mind that allowed him to sense far out into the universe. When he was trying to at least Kaioken, a technique that could magnify your power 2-fold. He had worked on it for the majority of the year. He could triple his power, but it caused him too much pain, especially in his chest. Something he didn't understand before but now made sense. And finally, the Spirit Bomb, the ability to use the positive and willingly given energy of others to create an attack that would be extremely harmful to beings filled with negative energy. Or, you could absorb the energy, giving your body a huge boost and surprisingly a permanent increase in strength for Saiyans whose bodies would adjust to the strain of more power. They didn't gain the entire energy of the Spirit Bomb, no. Only a fraction, but it was still useful to know and potentially could be incorporated into training. Brockhardt's thoughts returned to the present as he stood before a shocked blue-haired young man. Standing beside a yellow ship. Brockhardt just stared at the young man for a few seconds before speaking. "Welcome to Earth. I don't want to be rude to a guest, but how the hell did you enter undetected by the defense systems?" "And who are you?" said Brockhardt, giving off an intimidating aura. Trunks looked at his father. His mother had told him so much about him. But nothing is like seeing him in person. His father was huge. Yet somehow he had a kind face that could make you relax in his presence. Trunks wasn't short himself, no, he was 6.5 feet tall and still growing. He had blue hair that spiked forward at the brow and peaked up a little, whereas his hair from the back was smooth and laid flat against his head. He wore Saiyan armor, something that really confused Brockhardt. A scouter, dark blue, a blue jacket matching his hair, eyes and scouter. And blue and white Saiyan combat boots. His armor was colored blue and black and seemed to be similar to the design Earth currently possesses, except it seemed more sturdy somehow. Trunks took a moment before he spoke. "My name is Trunks," said the young man, causing Brockhardt's intimidating face to morph into one of surprise. "Trunks," thought Brockhardt as he immediately used his powerful sensing abilities to sense his newborn child. He then went on to sense this man who claimed to have the same name as his son and was even more shocked to see that the energies matched. Trunks, having seen the look of realization on the face of his father, spoke. "Let me explain. 3 years from now a scientist from the Red Ribbon Army will release 2 androids of great power. The Earth's forces will fight vigilantly but ultimately fall before their might. Everyone dies by their hands, everyone except my mother and I. You had died 2 years earlier. Mom was unable to create an antidote for the virus in time. You fought hard to live. I barely remember you, but what I do remember I hold on to. You were a great father. Even though most of the time you were in the hospital and were unable to interact with me. Campo, my older brother, helped raise me for the next 2 years. Finally, when I turned 3, they appeared. They were monsters. Everyone fought hard. Especially Campo. He was first to fall, then Uncle Raditz. Quickly followed by Uncle Turles. Cammy, having felt the death of Campo, came as quick as he could. He came in time to see the last of the Earth's defenders fall. Me and my mom were targeted next. It had been a week and I was confused and scared. The androids had chased us all over, and just before they could kill us, Cammy appeared. He told me to run, said something about the lookout. My mom quickly took us away in her jet to what I now know is your old lookout. The androids, however, had quickly overpowered Cammy and beat us to the lookout. Mr. Popo attempted to fight them off, giving us just enough time to turn back as he absorbed a blast too powerful for him and exploded. The lookout was destroyed with him. Me and Mom finally managed to find refuge from the androids in an underground complex under Capsule Corp. Since that day, I've been training to destroy the androids. Except Mom knows nothing about fighting and all the other Z fighters are dead. I've trained for the past 14 years but I could never surpass them. Mom had been working on a project ever since I was 10. A time machine, and here I am. I came here to save you, Dad, so that you could save the future, said Trunks. Brockarud had shed a tear during the story. How could he have failed? He should have been prepared for such an event. And now his son was fighting by himself? Brockarud came out of his stupor when Trunks threw him a vial. This is the antidote for the heart virus. Mom continued to work on it in tribute of you. Drink it, said Trunks. Brockarud looked at the vial in his hand in wonder. How could one small drink change the fate of the entire world? Thought Brockarud before he quickly opened the vial and drank its contents. Seconds later he felt some relief from his chest. He nodded in Trunks' direction before speaking. First thing I want to say before we continue. I'm proud of you, son. Very much so, said Brockarud, causing Trunks' eyes to widen and shed a tear of happiness. He had always feared that his father would hate him for being too weak to defeat the androids. Trunks quickly hugged his father, and after a few moments moved away. Thank you, Dad. You have no idea how much that means to me, said Trunks, causing Brockarud to smile for a moment before his face turned into one of contemplation before he once again spoke. Trunks, when exactly do these androids appear? Said Brockarud. Trunks looked at his father for a moment before saying May 12, 11 a.m. East City, year 767. Brockarud calculated the time and said, put away your ship, son. Trunks looked at his father in confusion before saying, why? I was going to jump forward 3 years so I can help fight the androids, said Trunks. His father smiled. No, you are going to train with me and Campo for the next 3 years. By the time I'm done with you, the androids will seem like toasters to you, said Brockarud, causing Trunks' eyes to widen once again before he smiled a bright smile. Thank you, father. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Since I'm back in time, I can train however long I want before I return to my own time, said Trunks excitedly. Brockarud just smiled before he said, yes, yes. Now let's get home so you can show me what you can do, said Brockarud, causing Trunks to smile before he stopped and asked, what about Mom? Brockarud quickly replied, she'll be in the hospital for another day. Don't worry, I'll explain everything to her. I haven't trained in 2 weeks, so I feel really stiff, so let's get going, said Brockert before he began to fly at high speeds towards Capsule Corp, Trunks following closely behind. 1 week later. It has been a week since Trunks arrived. Brockert had taught him much in that time. Trunks' power hadn't increased much, not much can be expected in a week. But his technique grew by leaps and bounds. Bulma had been shocked at first to see her newborn son all grown up. She was saddened by what he told her. She was very grateful to her future self for sending the medicine. She loved Goku very much, and the thought of him dying so young really made her sad. It took not but a few minutes, however, for Bulma to get over all of that when she realized that Trunks brought a card filled with data from her future self. This is from future you, Mom. It's all the new things Capsule Corp has invented, discovered, and made in the next 15 years. Just a little boost in progression, said Trunks with a smile. Bulma excitedly put in the card inside Capsule Core supercomputer to process and use the information. Upgrades for the Scouters, Saiyan armor, new discoveries on the flow of time, upgrades to Earth's defensive system, and many other things were found inside, including extremely advanced research on Senzu beans. Speaking of them, Trunks, what happened to the Senzu beans? Why didn't Campo and the others use them? Trunks immediately stilled before opening his mouth in a wide "oh we forgot about them. When the Z warriors were killed by the androids, they didn't play around. They killed them, and completely obliterated their bodies, including the bag of Senzus they had on them. The only bag left was in the Capsule Corp hospital. Kami's was also destroyed. The bag in Capsule Corp hospital had been used to heal the injured that came in. I occasionally take a few with me, but the androids knew about them, and after I used them twice to recover from a battle with them, they followed me back home a third time and destroyed Capsule Corp. Luckily my mom was in the underground complex. Unluckily the Senzu beans weren't. We never thought the androids would return to Capsule Corp after destroying it, so we kept refugees above ground in order to keep the remaining soldiers of the King's army and Mom safe just in case the androids do come. Bulma just looked confused. That's crazy. Brockert kept an abundance of Senzu beans all over the world in different places, not to mention at the lookout, and with the other Z warriors in one bag with his elite unite. To think they'd all be destroyed. Either Garo knows about them and programmed the androids to destroy them, or you guys were really unlucky, said Bulma. Well, this time we can plan ahead. Hopefully we won't have to worry about it as long as we destroy the androids, said Trunks. Bulma nodded, while reading the data. Mass production, interesting, mumbled Bulma as she went through the data. 3 years later. It has been 3 years and the day of the androids' arrival has come. Brockert and Trunks finished their last training session before their fight with the androids, both eating a single Senzu bean before showering and changing. Both dressed in their advanced Saiyan combat armors and both put on their Scouters. They had no idea why they wore them anymore, but they guessed that they just got used to having a Scouter on their faces. Brockert looked at Trunks, who looked back at his father. Both nodded and flew towards the city the androids first attacked in Trunks' timeline. On their way there, Brockert pressed a few buttons on his watch, alerting his brothers and the rest of the Z fighters, who all came together along the way. They all stopped at the cliff overlooking the city. No one said a single word, the Z warriors due to years of discipline, and Brockert, Campo and Trunks due to the seriousness of the situation. Suddenly a scream was heard down in the city. Brockert signaled the Z warriors to spread out around the source of the noise while Brockert, Campo, and Trunks investigate the site itself. When they reached there, they saw a man in a suit being held up by his neck, held up by a fat white clown it would seem. Trunks was shocked. These are not the androids, he remembered, but the Red Ribbon Army insignia was clear as day. The clown finished draining the man of his energy and threw him aside before looking at the newcomers. Brockert looked at the clown, who stared lifelessly at him before raising his hand and shooting out a relatively weak ki blast. The android easily lifted its hand up and absorbed the energy. Brockert immediately nodded his head before stating the obvious brute force: "No energy blasts, go." Brockert bore down on the clown as Campo and Trunks attacked the old man. In a matter of minutes the clown was destroyed while the old man was held up in the air by Campo while Trunks held his sword. To the good doctor's neck. Brockert stomped the head of Android 19 into rubble before walking up to the doctor, standing his full height, causing fear in the doctor's heart. "I must admit, doctor, you are a genius. But why do this? Why try to kill me? I have united mankind and brought this race to the highest glory. Why then would you seek to turn against your own people and kill your king? For what? Petty revenge? For someone so intelligent you sure are stupid," said Brockert. The doctor stopped shaking when Brockert began to speak. He began to think on what Brockert was saying. Why did he do this? The Red Ribbon Army was just a side project. He had no loyalty to the army itself, just its goal. Had not Brockert satisfied this goal? Then why fight him? But I'm too far in. What would happen to 17 and 18 now? What of? Cell, thought Garo. Brockert, seeing the realization on the doctor's face, spoke. "Join us, your androids, we know of them. My son came from the future and told me of your androids. In an alternate timeline I died from a heart disease that had no cure in this time. Your androids killed you when you released them and went on to wreak havoc on Earth. They completely destroyed Earth's forces. Is this what you desire? Together, me, you, Bulma, imagine what we could do? We already hired Mr. Briefs and Dr. Wheelo. You are the last of the greatest minds humanity has produced. Why then do you not show the universe the power of the human mind? Join me, and help build the empire that is humanity. Pledge yourself to your king and together we will reach the greatest heights," said Brockert. Though he sounded like a dictator with plans of grandeur, Brockert was only manipulating the doctor. He knew the way people like him think. "I'm not really lying, but nonetheless I seek peace for all those who desire peace, and justice for all those who desire chaos. How better can I do this than by bringing them the means to defend themselves from tyrants like Frieza and his father? First, humanity, then the rest of the universe. No one will suffer the loss of their entire race for something as fleeting as money or power. I swear it," thought Brockert. Dr. Garo looked at Brockert's eyes. Seeing the truth in them, he felt invigorated. To think he had wasted all these years on revenge. Yes, he would join Goku, and would help lead mankind to supremacy. "Trunks, Campo, let the doctor go," said Brockert. Trunks looked at his father a bit bothered. He knew his father knew what he was doing. But still, this man was responsible for the death of everyone Trunks cared for, but he would not speak against his father. No, perhaps could use his mind for good. As was released, he took a step to stand in front of Brockert before he kneeled, putting his right hand over his heart. "I, Dr. Garo, pledge myself, my mind, my body and my soul to King Brockert, to serve him and humanity until the day I die. By these words I swear," spoke Garo. "Rise, you have made the right choice, doctor. Now take me to your androids," said Brockert. Dr. Garo nodded before flying up in the air, Brockert, Campo and Trunks following close behind. Brockert clicked his scouter and spoke, "All units disengage. Dr. Garo is now one of us," spoke Brockert. All the Z warriors immediately stopped their search and flew up back to the cliff overseeing the city. "What is your command, King?" said Tien. "Go home, and rest. There may be some action later and I want all of you at full strength," said Brockert. "Yes sir," spoke the Z warriors in unison before they all flew off to their respective homes. Brockert and Garo as well as Brockert's sons flew for what seemed to be an hour at Garo's current pace. Eventually, they reached a giant metal door, built into a mountain. "This is my lab, King Brockert. In it are 3 of my androids as well as Something special, said Garo. Brockert nodded before telling Garo to proceed. Garo gave a signal and the door responded instantly. As Brockert, Campo and Trunks walked in behind Garo, they were surprised at how advanced Garo's work was. All three, being certified geniuses, couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of the technology. Garo would surely make a huge contribution to Earth's forces. Garo continued to walk deeper in the lab before stopping in front of two containers. These two are androids 17 and 18, said Garo. Before walking deeper and stopping in front of another container, and this is android 16, he is quite a deal more powerful than 17 and 18, but there is an error in his programming. Quite like the one in android 8 that allows him to disobey his programming and turn against me. So I disabled him and plan to destroy him as soon as possible, said Garo. Brockert immediately spoke up. Ader? Android 8 was a friend of mine, though we only met briefly during my destruction of the Red Ribbon Army. I found him to be very kind-hearted. If Android 16 is the same, he will fit right in with our forces. If he has the desire to protect life like Ader had, that is. If not, I'll destroy him myself. Release him, said Brockert to Garo. Garo looked at Brockert nervously before replying. But sire, he is programmed to kill you. He'll likely react aggressively if awoken only to find you in front of him. Let me at least reprogram him so that serving you is his mission, said Garo. Brockert looked at Garo briefly, contemplating the ethicality of such an action before he spoke. Garo, delete all his programming. Leave his personality and soul intact. Give him freedom to choose whatever path he wishes to follow, said Brockert. Garo looked at Brockert surprised. He never thought once to ever give his androids free will. Wouldn't they turn against him? Regardless, he knew how powerful the king was, and if Android 16 decided to go against him, it was his own funeral. Yes, sire, said Garo before he went to his computer and began reprogramming 16. Half an hour later, Garo returned. It is done. Should I release him first, or Android 17 and 18, said Garo. Trunks finally spoke up. Dad, Android 17 and 18 are evil. If you release them, they'll attack us without hesitation. Let us destroy them while they are still deactivated. Brockert looked at Trunks with understanding. Son, I am here now. No matter what, I'll never let what happened in the future happen here. You have nothing to worry about. I would never put this planet at risk. It is my home just as much as yours, said Brockert. Trunks stared at his father in awe. He never thought his father could be so kind. He truly did love the Earth and its people. From that moment on, Trunks was truly proud to be the son of Brockert, the guardian of Earth, and the king of Saiyans and humanity. Brockert smiled at his son before turning back to Garo and gesturing that he release 16. Garo nodded before he clicked a button, opening the lid to the container, which contained a tall, lime green vest, red mohawked android. The android opened its eyes before removing itself from its container, where it looked at the four men standing before it. Or was it him? Hello, my name is Android 16. Why have I been awakened, said the android. Brockert stood forward before speaking. Android 16, I am King Brockert. I woke you so that you could be a protector. This planet is constantly under threat. I invite you to join my army in the defense of this planet and all the life contained in it. You are free to choose to join. And if you decline, you are free to leave and live a life of your own choosing, as long as you do not harm this world's inhabitants, said Brockert. Android 16 stood still, thinking. He had been made by Dr. Garo, yet he always felt different, like he had a mind of his own. And now he was being given the ability to choose his own fate. But what did he want? Android 16 walked to the door of the lab and looked outside, only to be taken away by the beauty of the Earth. As he stared at the sight before him, he felt a strong feeling in his heart. Did he even have a heart? He felt a desire to protect and preserve this beauty with all his being, and it is then that he made his decision. I will join your army, I will defend this planet with my life, said 16 as he looked at Brockert, who had a pleased smile on his face. You made the right decision, 16, now let us wake your brothers, said Brockert as he approached the containers of 17 and 18. Garo, delete their programming. Do the same to them. I want them to choose and not have to fight off programming that commands them to kill everything I hold dear, said Brockert. Garo looked at the king somewhat surprised. But he nodded in understanding before he went to the computer and linked into Android 17 and 18 and began the process of reprogramming them and deleting their memories while keeping basic functions, such as speech, cognitive skills and mobility, fighting skills, and a sense of self. Brockert waited patiently for the doctor to finish, knowing that such complex programming would take a while. In the meantime, he was wondering why he had a bad feeling. It's as if something had come, some kind of evil was close by, yet he could not sense its exact position. As he continued to contemplate the possible meaning of what he was feeling, Garo stood up from his computer and walked towards the containers of 17 and 18. On your command, my king, said Garo. You may proceed, said Brockert. Garo immediately clicked the release button on 18's container before proceeding to release 17 as well. They two androids awoke from their slumber. Where? Who? What's going on? Thought 18. Where am I? Who am I? Thought 17. Both androids stood up from their containers and immediately began to take in their surroundings before looking at the 5 men standing in front of them. Looks of confusion and contemplation upon their innocent faces. Brockert once again took initiative and took a step forward. Hello, my name is Brockert, and I am your king. Your names are 18 inches, said Brockert, gesturing towards Android 18, and 17, he said, gesturing towards Android 17. The two androids looked at Brockert, some of the confusion having left their faces, but still, they did not know why they were here. Android 18 spoke up. Why are we here? Where did we come from? Said 18. Brockert looked at the two androids. Earlier along the way to Garo's lab, Dr. Garo had told him the story of the creation of Android 17 and 18. A somewhat sad tale of two teenagers who sought to end their lives. You two were once human beings, 8 years ago, about a year before I became king of this planet. Before I became guardian and king to planet Earth, there was much crime on Earth. One day, you and your brother were walking beside your mother at night returning from watching a movie when a man came from behind and grabbed your mother and quickly dragged her into an alleyway. You two were young at the time, both around 8 years old, I presume. When you tried to save your mother, the man beat you both and proceeded to rape her in front of you. After he was done, he killed her before leaving without a second glance, said Brockert, causing both androids to become angry. But before they could speak, Brockert continued the story. On that same day, you two tried to kill yourselves. But before you could proceed, a man came. A man named Dr. Garo. He offered to make you powerful. Powerful enough to kill anyone who would try to hurt you or anyone you cared for. You both agreed. The doctor, however, did not have sincere intentions. He took you two in, and turned you into androids. He erased your memory and tried to turn you into his weapons. But you continued to rebel. Somewhere in your subconscious you remembered your mother and the doctor's promise. But before you could destroy the doctor, he sealed you back into your containers. Today was the day you would be once again released. Your programming reinforced. But this is where I came in. I defeated the doctor and his other android, and I freed you. I have taken the doctor as my own servant. And I promise you, he will be punished for what he did to you. But his intelligence can be used for good. This is where you two come in. I commanded the doctor to erase all your programming. Essentially, you are free once again, human, but with a more powerful body. And I ask only one thing from you. Join my army in the protection of this planet. Do not let what happened to your mother ever happen again. The Earth is safe. With my reign I have completely wiped out crime on Earth. But not the universe, Brockeret spoke. Both androids were surprised. This man had freed them from their prison, given them back their minds as well as let them keep their power. And all he asked is that they help protect the innocent? Brockeret continued, the universe is vast. There are billions of planets like Earth, all with their own inhabitants. Some of which have developed the ability to travel through space. Some of which are evil. Many times in the past I have saved this planet from such evil only for another to arrive. This planet needs protectors. And you 17 and 18 can do it. You can protect the Earth from anything that will threaten it. So what is your choice? Will you help me protect this planet from those who would harm the innocent and helpless? Or do you seek to live out your lives free of responsibility? It is your choice. Either way, I accept you as part of my people, and as your king I only desire your happiness, said Brockeret. 17 and 18 looked in awe at the man. He spoke no lie. He told them the entire truth. He could have easily manipulated them because they had no memory, but instead he laid everything in front of them. A truly honorable man. A truly great king. 17 spoke for the first time. I will join you. Thank you for telling me who I am, and where I came from, said 17. 18 looked at her brother before nodding and speaking herself. I will join you as well. And I also thank you for your honesty, said 18. Brockeret smiled. Then let us leave, said Brockeret. As they went to leave the lab, Garo spoke up. Brockeret, my king, there is still something else that must be dealt with. Brockeret looked towards Garo in wonder. What else is there? The lab seemed empty of any more androids. Garo gestured for Brockeret to follow him. Brockeret nodded and told Trunks and the others to leave without them and that he would catch up. Dr. Garo brought Brockeret to a closed door on the floor, which opened to reveal a stairway. As they went down the hidden stairway, into a basement that held a large computer and a giant tank that looked similar to the healing tanks used by Frieza's army. Brockeret looked inside only to see a fetus floating in the liquid. Garo began to speak. Sire, this is my greatest invention. Cell, a bioandroid, made entirely out of organic material, fit with the cells of the Earth's strongest warriors. All the potential of a Saiyan, the finesse of a human and the regenerative properties of a Namek. Sadly, it'll take at least 20 years for Cell to become complete. I made him to be insect-like, having many stages of evolution. He would evolve many times before reaching his final form. He would also absorb Android 17 and 18 in order to achieve a perfect form. One that would grant him incomparable strength, said Garo. Brockeret looked in wonder and disgust at the fetus. Absorb 17 and 18? No one deserves such a fate. Brockeret quickly spoke. Dr. Garo, I will destroy Cell, but leave the computer intact. Use it to grow organs and limbs for the Z warriors so that if ever they lose one they could have them replaced. If you can mass produce the liquid, it can be used as a medical device to grow healthy organs for those who need a transplant. This Cell cannot be allowed to live. He is a parasite that takes its power from others while having no sense of value for the effort it takes to reach such a plateau. And I will not have 17 and 18 absorbed by such a creature. They are my subjects and are under my protection, said Brockeret. Garo looked at Cell and back to his king before finally nodding. Brockeret lifted his hand and released a key blast on the tank holding Cell, causing it and Cell to disintegrate into nothing. Brockeret and Garo left the lab shortly after, Brockeret calling in a team of specialists to disassemble Garo's lab and move it to Capsule Corp, where Garo will work with a team of Earth's brightest minds to invent new technologies for the benefit of mankind. Too bad that Brockeret found Trunks and Campo unconscious when he reached outside and 18 and 17 missing. 16 was broken in half. His pieces lay beside Campo and Trunks. Suddenly Brockeret felt a massive power towards the east. He quickly flew towards it before teleporting using instant transmission. Standing in front of Brockeret was a giant green creature, almost as tall as Brockeret, with green and black skin, a white face and a dark evil look. Before Brockeret could speak, the creature began to talk, in a voice that sounded completely human. Goku, or should I say Brockeret? I am Cell. I have come from the future using a time machine. I killed your son Trunks, who had returned to the future, and killed the androids shortly after I hatched. I realized that in order to reach my perfect form I would have to return to the past, and conveniently, I had a perfect time machine just waiting for me to take it, and here I am. I've been waiting for 4 years and finally I have achieved my perfect form," said Cell, who immediately began to power up. Brockeret was in awe. How could any creature hold so much power? As Cell finally stopped powering up, he looked at Brockeret and smirked. "Oh, and just so you know, this is only half of my full power," said Cell condescendingly. Brockeret looked even more shocked before suddenly his blood began to pump. Finally, someone who can challenge him, who can push him to his limits. I've been waiting my whole life for this. But before we start, let me ask him a question. Cell, let me ask you this: how did you sneak by my senses? I have the most developed key sensing technique in the world. How could you fight Trunks and Campo without me feeling it? Said Brockeret. Cell stood still for a few moments before he spoke. You must have been inside the basement of Gero's lab, where my past self is. Gero has a field around that area to stop anyone from sensing me when I finally hatch. It seems that it works both ways. If you weren't in that basement, I may not have been able to absorb 17 and 18. It seems that even fate wants me to become perfect, said Cell. Brockeret nodded. He should have been more careful. Did Gero know that Cell was there? Did he set him up? No. If even I couldn't sense Cell in the area, then it'd be impossible for Gero, and it's not like he'd have a device to sense him, seeing as he had no idea Cell would come to the past thought. Brockeret, all right Cell, let me test this perfect form of yours, spoke Brockeret before he began to power up. The fight for the fate of the Earth had begun. Would Brockeret succeed? Or will he fall to the Cell, a being made of the combined might of Earth's most powerful warriors?